Amazing empathy revealed. Millionaire's 30-day test showed his maid's heartwarming transformation. Tom Richard stood in his grand kitchen, grey marble glimmering under the overhead lights, contemplating how far he had drifted from the people he once knew. He was a millionaire tech entrepreneur in Maplewood, parked at the top of life's ladder. But loneliness echoed through his sprawling home, filling the empty space with a sorrow that money couldn't touch. The more he achieved, the more isolated he felt. So, he hatched a daring plan. For 30 days, he would step into the shoes of his housemaid Maria, a single mother fighting tooth and nail for her kids. The first day broke like a harsh slap. The relentless buzz of the alarm clock jerked him from his sleep. While others chased dreams, Maria had been chasing exhaust fumes while cramming 2 kids into her small car. Tom's morning consisted of a dreary bus commute crammed between tired commuters and laughing teenagers. Every stop was a reminder of his privilege. As he stepped off the bus, heart hammering, his resolve felt like ice shattering. He was not in his estate, he was staring at the modest apartment where Maria raised her children. Tom woke before dawn, and the sun barely pierced the horizon when he started cooking breakfast in a cramped kitchen. Flipping pancakes, he was reminded of simple joys he had long forgotten. The smell of sizzling eggs filled the air, mingling with shrill laughter from the kids who just broke the night's peaceful slumber. Their giggles turned his heart over as they battled over the last pancake bite. In those moments, a warm, poignant connection began to blossom between them. Tom learned that unlike those golden mornings in his mansion, Maria fought to make those moments happen, live wired with love as much as with worry. Discussions over meager groceries unveiled the unpolished realities of life outside his bubble. Maria, sidelined by tragedy, once aspired to goals that had quickly faded into a fog of bills and responsibilities. The woman who scrubbed his floors had dreams. Shocked by her resilience, Tom felt a new ache within, one of empathy, of understanding. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Days morphed into weeks, and Tom became entrenched in the swirl of Maria's life, school runs, late-night shifts, all in the pursuit of a better future for her children. As laughter mingled with tears, he began to see Maria beyond her services. She intrigued him, her strength pulsing in every anecdote shared, each pathway recalled. Inspiration surged through him as Tom envisioned bringing their community together. However, a gnawing fear tangled with hope. Would they accept a millionaire seeking connection? On the eve of the event, led by their shared experience, he stood before a crowd gathering for a celebration of unseen heroes. But doubt flickered at the edges of his mind. As applause broke like waves crashing on shore, he caught Maria's eyes, shining with a mixture of gratitude and skepticism. Would the truth of their stories create bridges or walls? What legacy would emerge from this journey? In that suspenseful moment, transformation loomed, both breathtaking and terrifying. Tom, on the brink of revelation, stood tethered to the edge of change, ready to leap into the unknown. The crowd quieted, their attention shifting to Tom as he approached the microphone. His heart raced, each pulse drumming against his chest like a distant echo. This wasn't just a presentation, it was a moment of vulnerability, a leap of faith. Thank you all for coming tonight, he began, his voice steady yet trembling beneath layers of emotion. He scanned the sea of faces, each one holding a story, a battle. Maria stood among them, her expression a mixture of hope and uncertainty. I'm here to share a journey that helped me rediscover what truly matters. He started to recount his first days with Maria, painting vivid scenes of pancake-smelling mornings and bedtime stories, showing the earnestness in her struggle as a dedicated mother. As he spoke, the atmosphere shifted. Nods of recognition spread through the audience, their faces softening, finding reflections of their own daily battles in the narrative he wove. Maria faced challenges many of us merely touch on when flipping through headlines or scrolling past news stories, he continued, his voice rising with urgency. But she also showed me joy amid hardship, the strength of community rooted in love. Tom watched as Maria's cheeks flushed, pride dancing like sunlight in her eyes. He could see the flicker of hope igniting in others around her. He knew that his words were resonating, then he hesitated, the weight of his next words heavy in the air. I asked myself, what if we put aside our labels? A millionaire. A maid. What if we focused on the human connection, the shared struggles, and the dreams we all have? A murmur swept across the room, rippling through the crowd. Tom caught sight of a few wary glances, but also of others leaning closer, intrigued. His pulse quickened, a surge of adrenaline pushing him onward. Tonight, I want us to take the first step. Let us build a bridge, not just in words but in actions. The applause that followed was thunderous, reverberating through the hall like an anthem. But Tom's gaze remained locked on Maria, who seemed to glow brighter with every passing second. As the clapping faded, the crowd's energy shifted. It was as if a palpable current connected them all, fueled by shared vulnerabilities. They were not just witnesses, they were participants in a tale waiting to unfold. Just then, a voice broke through the aftershocks of applause. What's next, Tom? How do we carry this forward? A young woman, maybe in her 20s, stood up, her eyes blazing with conviction. Soon, others followed suit, each one eager, demanding a response. Tom's heart leapt at that spark, realizing that his vision of community was taking form right before him. We'll create a program, he blurted out, excitement pouring into every word. A community initiative that not only uplifts families like Maria's but everyone seeking a voice. The room exploded into a flurry of discussions, figures being jotted down, partnerships forming on the spot. Ideas were exchanged like currency, each person brainstorming how to contribute to the movement, but as Tom reveled in that wave of goodwill, Maria's look darkened. He felt a weight settle back over her, a tension wrapping around them. Wait, she called out. Her voice cut through the booming excitement, bringing a hush to the crowd. What if this doesn't work for everyone? Tom's heart sank. He could feel the energy shift, uncertainty creeping back into the room. Her question, simple yet profound, had the power to unravel all the plans they had just set in motion, and there it was, the cusp of a new realization hovering in the air like a thundercloud. Were they ready to embrace the complexities that lay ahead? As Tom looked into Maria's searching eyes, he felt the fresh tension of a crossroads emerge. What path would they choose? Would hope triumph over doubt, or would they find themselves ensnared by misunderstandings? The moment lingered, heavy with uncertainties, leaving everyone, including Tom, wondering what the next step would be. The silence stretched, thick with doubt and vulnerability. Tom swallowed hard, trying to catch the rhythm of his thoughts. He had envisioned this moment, but now, the bright picture was clouded by Maria's question. He took a breath, feeling the weight of hundreds of curious eyes focused on him. Maria, he began slowly, choosing his words carefully. You're absolutely right. A few gasps rippled through the audience, surprise flashing in some faces while others nodded, echoing her sentiment. He pushed ahead, his voice gaining strength. We can't pretend this is a one-size-fits-all solution. Real life is messy, and every story is different. Tom felt a shiver run through the crowd, as if a collective realization was settling in. There was power in acknowledging the complexities, in embracing the reality that healing took different forms. Maybe this program can't solve everything, but it can be a starting point. He locked eyes with her. We need a space where everyone feels heard, a place to voice their own struggles. How do we lift each other up in ways that matter? Maria relaxed slightly, the tension in her shoulders easing. We need to hear their voices, but we also need to create actual support. Yes. Another voice called from the back, a middle-aged man with tired eyes. How do we make this real? We need to listen to our neighbors, learn from them. People need more than promises. Right. Tom exclaimed, heart racing once again. It's about building a community, not just creating a program. This needs to be a conversation. We need to invite everyone into this dialogue, not just the ones who are comfortable. Hands started shooting up around the room. Ideas flew through the air. Community gatherings that hosted open forums, workshops where stories could be shared, local artists helping to build connections through shared themes. The energy soared, rekindled by the realization that they were not alone in a world of labels. As time passed, the crowd erupted into a buzz of enthusiasm. People mingled, forming small groups, pulling in ideas and weaving them into a plan. Tom watched with wonder, feeling a swell of pride in his chest as he stood back and allowed the magic to unfold. Yet, amidst the joy, he noticed something. Maria stayed apart, her gaze drifting like a leaf on water. Just then, she caught his eye. There was still a flicker of worry. "Do you really think this can work?" Her voice was barely above a whisper, but it cut through the noise, drawing him closer. "I believe in us. I believe in the power of connection," he said earnestly, stepping toward her. "But it's a journey, and it will take time." She nodded slowly, processing his words. But Tom could still see the shadows clouding her eyes. They both understood that good intentions were only the first step in a long road ahead. As the night wore on, the crowd buzzed with excitement, but for Tom and Maria, the question loomed large. What happens when the ideas met the complexities of life? Were they truly ready for what lay ahead? The questions hung heavy, weighted by the unknown. A challenge lauded, yet daunting. How would they navigate the reality of their ambitions when faced with the truths some were still hesitant to voice? Tom's heart raced once more, excitement intertwining with trepidation. This was only the beginning of the transformation they sought. What would they discover together, and how would they face the inevitable hurdles coming their way? The days that followed their gathering were a whirlwind. Tom found himself swept up in the flood of ideas and suggestions pouring in from the community. It was exhilarating, to say the least. Every conversation felt like a spark igniting possibility. Yet, amid the excitement, he couldn't shake the sense of unease that settled in his chest. Maria's doubt lingered like a shadow, a constant reminder of the fragility of their plans. He tried to reach out to her, but she seemed distant, preoccupied with her own thoughts. Each day, Tom watched her from afar, noticing the slight frown lines on her forehead and the way her laughter didn't quite reach her eyes anymore. One evening, Tom gathered a small group of community members in his living room, sitting on mismatched chairs and old couches. The air crackled with enthusiasm, fueled by hope and frustration. They discussed practical steps, but Tom sensed that something deeper needed to surface. "Let us not forget why we're doing this," Tom said, trying to rally their spirits. "It's about connection, about being there for one another. If we focus too much on logistics, we might lose sight of the heart of it all." Heads nodded in agreement, but Tom's eyes drifted to Maria, who stood at the edge of the group. She was quiet, her fingers tracing the patterns on her chair. There was a distance in her gaze, a hesitance. "Maria," he said, softening his voice. "Would you like to share something?" The room turned towards her, anticipation building. She hesitated, then stood taller, as if drawing strength from the collective energy. "I just worry we're trying to do too much too fast. People are scared." "I know I am." Her voice wavered, revealing the vulnerability beneath her composed exterior. "What if we put ourselves out there, and it doesn't work?" The room fell silent. Tom felt a swell of empathy. Her fears mirrored his own, and he realized that the pressure of their ambitious plan could easily become overwhelming. "You're right," he finally said. "We can't rush this. Real change takes time. We have to meet people where they are, acknowledge their fears. Each step we take will need to be rooted in understanding." Maria's eyes softened, glistening with unshed tears. "Can we really do that? Can we show them that it's okay to be vulnerable?" A wave of murmurs floated around the room, a collective commitment forming. "Yes, we can." Someone exclaimed, and it sparked more voices offering support. They started echoing her sentiment, promising a gentler approach, one that honored the struggles and stories of each person they hoped to reach. Tom took a deep breath, feeling the weight lift slightly. There was something powerful in that moment, a recognition of their shared human experience. As they brainstormed together, the conversation transformed from facts and figures to heartfelt commitments. Personal stories flowed, laughter mingled with tears, and the air thickened with purpose. Weeks turned into a tapestry of progress and setbacks, each giving rise to insights and revelations. The community meetings turned into a space for exploration, where vulnerability was welcomed, and people began to share their stories with honest emotion. But just when they thought they were making strides, challenges emerged from unexpected places. A few community members grew skeptical, questioning their methods, while others felt overwhelmed by the weight of their own experiences. Tom sensed a storm brewing, and for every small victory, he could feel the cracks starting to show. He glanced at Maria, who was now a steadfast companion, but he saw the same flicker of worry lurking in her eyes. "Do you think we're truly ready to face the hurdles ahead?" Tom asked her one late evening as they prepared for another meeting. "What if our best efforts still aren't enough?" Maria sighed, biting her lip. "I guess that's just it, isn't it? We can't control everything. We can only promise to show up, to keep trying." Her words resonated with deep truth, a raw acceptance they both needed to embrace as they prepared to face the challenges that lay ahead. Then, as they walked into the meeting, Tom faced the room filled with tentative faces. He could feel the electricity in the air, the anticipation hanging like a tightrope over uncertainty. How would they hold on to hope when fear crept in? How could they strengthen their community amid growing skepticism? As he prepared to speak, his heart thudded with an urgent question hanging in the air, daring him to confront the unknown. Would they pull together or crumble apart? Tom stood in front of the gathered crowd, a mix of familiar and new faces urging him on with their hopeful expressions. With each heartbeat echoing in his ears, he felt the weight of their expectations. Could he really guide them through this uncertainty? The chatter faded as he cleared his throat. "Thank you all for coming. I know these past few weeks have been difficult, and it's easy to feel lost." He scanned the room, catching glimpses of anxious brows and tightly clasped hands. "It's normal to feel overwhelmed. We're all in this together." A murmured agreement rippled through the crowd. Tom could already feel the tightness ease a bit as he continued. "But I believe we have something special here. A chance to create a community that truly connects." Just then, a voice from the back broke through. It was Janet, a longtime resident known for her no-nonsense approach. "What if it doesn't work out? What if people think we're just wasting time?" Her honesty cut through the fragile optimism in the room. Tom took a moment, letting her words sink in. The truth was, he shared her fear. "What if we fail?" He echoed. "But what if we succeed? What if we create a space that nurtures understanding?" Janet frowned, arms crossed tightly. "It's a nice thought, but we can't just hope for the best. Hope doesn't pay bills or heal wounds." Tom nodded, affirming her concerns. "You're right. Hope is just the beginning. It's what propels us to act. What if we start small? We can do little things, neighborhood gatherings, a potluck supper, something to ease people into sharing and being together." He could see that some were warming to the idea, while others still radiated distrust. In that moment, he noticed Maria at the edge of the crowd. She was leaning forward, her eyes fixed on him with a flicker of belief. He returned her gaze, silently asking for her support. Finally, she spoke up. "I think starting small is a great idea. It lowers the stakes and allows people to connect without pressure." Her voice was firm, but there was a hint of trembling that revealed her own uncertainty. "Exactly," Tom exclaimed, encouraged by her input. "This isn't about a grand display but creating something genuine. We need to meet people where they are, offer choices, not demands, and embrace everyone's story. We all have challenges, and the best way forward is side by side." Seeing people nodding, Tom felt a surge of courage. Let us take this journey together. We can prioritize listening, sharing our vulnerabilities. Let us make those who doubt feel heard, understood. After all, we're not just fighting for our community's future. We're building it together. A gentle buzz filled the room as the mood shifted from doubt to tentative hope. Tom felt a tremor of excitement. They were starting to lean into one another, and he could see some walls beginning to crumble. However, just as the enthusiasm was building, the flicker of doubt reignited. Another voice chimed in, but how do we deal with those who will always resist? We can't please everyone. A deep breath. The question lingered in the air, heavy and real. Tom's smile faltered slightly, but he pressed on. We can't please everyone, and that's okay. What we need is a solid core of empathy that welcomes dissent and seeks to understand. Isn't that what we're really after? The room was silent, contemplating his words, and for a fleeting moment, he sensed a collective understanding, albeit cautiously, but just then, a figure burst through the door. It was David, a local activist known for his hard-hitting critiques. The tension in the room multiplied as he scanned the crowd with a challenging look, his presence an electric jolt. I heard you all are trying to talk about connection. He grumbled, folding his arms. What makes you think this will even work? Everyone says the same thing, and nothing changes. A wave of apprehension washed over the room. Tom felt his stomach twist as he recognized the reality they were stepping into treacherous waters. How would they prove that their fragile hope could withstand the scrutiny? What would happen when they confronted not just doubt, but the harsh realities of community dynamics that thrived on division? Facing the crowd, Tom felt the weight on his shoulders again. He knew they were at a crossroads, one that could lead to meaningful connection or deeper fractures. Would they rise to the challenge, or would fear pull them apart? The silence hung heavy in the air as David's challenge echoed around the room. Tom's heart raced. He could feel the crowd's uncertainty radiating back at him, a tangible wave of doubt crashing against his resolve. Why should we believe this will work, Tom? David crossed his arms tighter, as if trying to physically hold back the hope swirling around them. People want change, but they need to see it happen. Talk is cheap. For a moment, Tom felt stripped bare, exposed to the harsh realities of his own idealism. I know it's hard to believe, he began, his voice steady but quiet, but every great movement starts with small steps. Real change takes time and commitment. Maria leaned closer, her expression curious, encouraging. What do you envision? How do we begin? Tom inhaled deeply, feeling the energy shift. Let us put together a community meeting. Invite everyone, even those that don't agree with us. We can set up a panel where people can voice their concerns and ideas. Everyone deserves a platform. David snorted. And you think that will change anything? You can't just throw a meeting and expect people to talk openly. Not when they don't feel safe. Tom's pulse sped up, but Maria placed a gentle hand on his arm. Maybe he's right. It's about making a space where people feel welcome. We have to create an atmosphere of trust first. Yes. Tom seized the spark in her voice. Trust is foundational. Maybe we can reach out to each other outside this room first, start conversations one-on-one, share meals, laugh, tell stories. The crowd was nodding again, some whispering to one another. David remained skeptical but didn't interrupt. Imagine what we might uncover if we listen to each other's stories, Tom continued, his excitement growing. I believe that we each carry pieces of each other's lives. That could help us build bridges. David's brow furrowed, and Tom sensed a crack in his resistant demeanor. What if they don't want to connect? What if they feel it's a waste of their time? Suddenly, Tom recalled his own fears a few weeks back, doubts that paralyzed him at times. But he couldn't let that moment of vulnerability slip away. You're right. Not everyone will engage, and change can feel like swimming against a fast current. But what if just one person finds their voice? What if they change another's heart? Isn't that worth the effort? The crowd shifted restlessly, hesitant yet captivated. He watched as the flickers of understanding spread, how each face reflected a mix of hope and trepidation. Janet finally spoke up, her tone softer, yet still firm. I think we need to see evidence of this. Show us that it can work one small step at a time. Organize those gatherings, but document it. If it starts to make a difference, we can lean into it. Tom couldn't help but smile at her proposition. Yes. If we commit to sharing what happens, successes, failures, all of it, then we create transparency. Our process, our growth, it's part of the journey. With newfound determination, he took a step forward. Let us set a date for that first potluck. We can gather not just to eat but to truly listen to one another. Hands began to raise, people offering ideas for different dishes, ways to promote the gathering. Tom felt the fire ignite, the warmth of enthusiasm setting in. The tension with David remained, but for the first time, he saw a glimmer of something resembling intrigue in his eyes, but just as they began to settle into a plan, a new voice surged in from the back. What if someone gets hurt? What if the tension explodes instead? Tom's smile wavered again, that familiar weight returning to him as uncertainty gripped the room once more. They were still teetering on the edge of change. How would they navigate the stormy seas of dissent and fear? Would they find the courage to face potential conflict, or would it hold them back from the connection they desperately sought? Tom felt the air crackle with tension as the new voice echoed through the room, the anxiety apparent on every face. He glanced at David, whose skepticism morphed into something much more intricate, a mixture of fear and concern. It was a reminder that the path to unity wouldn't be smooth. Look, Tom began, trying to project confidence, I understand the worry. Change can feel dangerous. People fear it. He paused, letting the weight of his words sink in. But isn't living in fear worse? Isn't silence just another way of hurting ourselves? He scanned the room, meeting the eyes of those who looked apprehensive. We can't expect things to get better if we don't take a step forward. Yes, the potluck might feel risky. But we can plan for safety. We can create ground rules. Ground rules? David raised an eyebrow, skeptically. Yes. Let us set clear intentions, no interruptions, respect for all voices, be honest but kind. Tom could feel the crowd shift slightly, contemplating, weighing the prospect of a conversation against their instincts to retreat. Maria clasped her hands, stepping into the conversation. Acknowledge that people may disagree. We are all coming from different perspectives. But we can make space for that. What if we started with our stories? It's hard to hate someone when you hear where they come from. Tom sensed a change in energy, a subtle acceptance of vulnerability hovered in the air. That's right, he added, encouraged by her insight. Sharing could bridge gaps we didn't even know existed. It flips the script, we become more than just our labels. David shifted, opening up a bit. And what if someone refuses to listen? What then? Then we learn, Tom declared, his voice rising. We learn to respect their choice. We can't force anyone to change the way they think. But we can certainly show them our willingness to hear. If they see that at least some of us care enough to try, it might plant a seed. The room felt alive, a mixture of nervous energy laced with an undercurrent of hope. People whispered amongst themselves, weighing possibilities. Janet leaned forward again, her eyes sparkling with curiosity. How do we ensure it doesn't just turn into a shouting match? We prepare for it, Tom exclaimed, excitement bubbling over. We can have mediators, trained individuals whose job is to maintain respect among conversations. It's about skills, not just goodwill. Every voice matters, and we need to actively listen. A murmur ran through the crowd as people began nodding once more. Tom felt the momentum building. The fear of being hurt wasn't vanishing, but the stirring idea that they could control their environment began to take root. All right, let us do it, David finally said, his tone less critical, more contemplative. But I'm telling you now, if this goes sideways I won't easily forget it. Tom felt a rush of gratitude. That's fair, David. But let us make this a foundation, not a battleground. As the group rallied together, tentative ideas floated for the potluck details. The atmosphere lightened slightly, allowing Tom a moment to smile. Then came the reminder of the stakes, the nagging question, what if it truly did backfire? The planning continued, but in the back of Tom's mind sat that fear, lurking and pressing. The clock ticked ominously as more voices joined in, and the flicker of hope mixed with the shadow of worry. Would they truly be able to hold a space where everyone felt safe? Or would it all end in an explosion of unresolved feelings? He glanced around, searching for reassurance, but found only uncertainty mirrored in the faces around him. The moment before change felt heavier than ever. As the discussions flowed, a final voice broke through the noise, echoing with a chilling clarity. What if they show up armed? Tom's heart dropped. They were not just forging connections, they were stepping into a battleground of emotions and potential violence. Would they have the strength to face this dark possibility head-on? The room fell silent as those words settled like a heavy fog. Tom felt a chill run down his spine. The weight of that question hung there, leaving a knot in his stomach. Armed? The thought pierced through their moment of tentative unity, churning anxiety deep within. Maria broke the silence, her voice steady as she turned to the speaker. Eddie. You think they'll just walk in with weapons? What makes you say that? Her brows furrowed, a mix of fear and frustration knitting them together. Eddie shrugged, casting a glance towards the window. I've read the news, tensions are running high. Situations escalate quickly. His eyes darted, troubled and searching. What if we're opening a door we can't close again? Tom could feel the panic bubbling up. What if they were wrong? What if their effort to connect led to chaos instead of community? He stepped forward, trying to ground the conversation. We have control over how we respond. We can't let fear dictate our actions. Instead of imagining the worst, let us focus on being proactive. Proactive? David echoed, his voice tinged with a mix of disbelief and concern. You're suggesting we just ignore real threats? That's naive. Tom took a deep breath. I'm not saying to ignore them, but we can prepare without living in fear. We can have expectations, secure the space, and plan how to communicate if things go sideways. A tense discussion bubbled up again as people exchanged worried glances. He sensed the struggle. People were torn between hope and fear, wanting to create change but doubting their courage to face potential upheaval. We can have a safe area, Janet chimed in, her voice filled with determination. One where we can separate ourselves if we need to. If we set boundaries, we might appeal to those with concerns. We need to mark our space not just for ourselves but for those who need assurance. Draw the lines in a way that invites conversation, rather than shutting anyone out. David shook his head, still skeptical. What about the ones who won't respect those boundaries? What do we do then? Tom felt the pressure building again. Maybe those are the very people who we need to reach. It's easy to talk about unity when we're here, but it's harder when we confront someone who doesn't believe the same things we do. But if they see that we're committed to listening. His voice trailed off, but hope sparked in his chest. They might surprise us. Amidst the tension, Maria smiled softly. It's a chance. At the very least, we're standing together. Whether or not they come with arms or words, we'll create a shield of understanding. The tension in the air began to shift, if only slightly. They whispered plans, imagined a gathering surrounded by mounds of delicious food and the scent of fresh coffee, hopeful stories mixed with uncertain fears swirling like smoke from a fire. But underneath it all, doubt lingered like a shadow. Tom felt it gnawing at him. Could they truly create a space that fostered healing? Could this potluck blossom into something beautiful, or would it explode into conflict? Then, just as the conversation began to settle back into a rhythm, the door swung open. Several faces peeked in, eyes wide, filled with curiosity and a hint of hesitation. Tom's heart raced. This was a crucial moment. What would they say? What kind of energy did those newcomers bring? As whispers rippled through the room, he took a deep breath, recognizing the moment of truth before them. Would they embrace the challenge ahead, or would fear pull yet another group apart? The room buzzed with anticipation, but a sense of resolve hung heavy in the air. In that moment, Tom understood their greatest challenge wasn't just about the potential for violence, it was about transforming the fear into an opportunity for understanding. And then a voice broke through the tension again, echoing with a haunting urgency. Did you all hear what happened at the park last week? Tom's heart raced. It was a reminder that outside of their hopeful circle, the world was still filled with danger and division. What would it mean if the conversation turned dark? The newcomers stepped into the room, their silhouettes emerging from the dim light. They were a mix of young and old, faces lined with worry yet ignited by curiosity. Tom felt the weight of 1,000 unspoken words in the air as he met their gaze. Was this the beginning of something meaningful, or a pathway to conflict? What happened at the park? An older man asked, his voice steady yet thin. It broke through the uncertainty, weaving a thread of connection. The group glanced at one another, sensing the gravity of the question. Eddie shifted, anxiety flickering across his features. It was bad. There were confrontations between different groups. People got hurt. It's just a reminder that we're sitting on a powder keg. His voice was laced with the deep-rooted fears they had all harbored, and Tom felt the urge to soothe his frayed nerves. Before he could answer, the younger woman stepped forward, her eyes bright but trembling with emotion. But you're here. You're all together. That's what matters, right? Tom held her gaze, feeling the flicker of hope that energized the room once more. Yes, he nodded, that's exactly it. We're here to reach out, to understand. Just like you are. We want to listen, to share, to show that we can be stronger together. But will that be enough? A voice chimed in skeptically. It was a middle-aged woman who had just stepped forward, arms crossed protectively over her chest. Will listening really change anything? Tom felt the familiar knot in his stomach twist tighter. It won't be easy. Change doesn't happen overnight. But every step counts. Today, here together, we are making a choice to replace fear with conversation, to replace doubt with action. Maria nodded, stepping up beside him. We're hosting a potluck. It's not just about food, but about gathering stories, sharing experiences. Let us compare notes on what's happening. We could be the voice of change. There was a subtle murmur of agreement, but Tom saw inklings of hesitation flickering still. He took a deep breath. And what happened at the park? It could be a wake-up call for us, too. It's a chance to learn from it instead of letting it divide us. The newcomers shifted, their wariness softening. Hesitation was replaced by curiosity as they began to share their stories. One talked about losing his neighbor, another shared the fear of driving through their own neighborhoods. The heaviness they brought merged with the collective surroundings, creating a pulse of vulnerability that rumbled as connections began to form. As the voices grew louder, so did the passion in the room. There was laughter mingling with tears, hope stirred alongside anxieties. Tom let it wash over him, recognizing the transformation taking place. They weren't just discussing what had happened, they were beginning to weave a fabric of unity. Let us give each other the chance to understand, Tom said, returning to the center with renewed conviction. We have to start somewhere. Why not here, with us? But just then, the door creaked open a sliver more, revealing a figure darkened by the light behind them. The eyes on the newcomer reflected uncertainty. Is this where the meeting is? The voice called out, laced with authority yet layered with fear. The atmosphere shifted again, tension vibrating back through the group. Tom's heart pounded in his chest. Would this stranger be a voice of conflict or a catalyst for reconciliation? The room braced itself for what could happen next. There was no going back now. This was the moment that might determine their fate. Would fear prevail, or would they find strength in understanding? Tom stood there, every fiber of his being pulled tight with anticipation. The new arrival's presence felt like a gust of wind threatening to disrupt their fragile atmosphere. Silence wrapped around them, a collective breath held as everyone's eyes turned to the figure waiting in the doorway, arms crossed with uncertainty. "Yeah, this is where the meeting is," Tom finally said, his voice breaking through the tension. "We're here to listen and connect." The newcomer, a tall man with weary eyes, stepped into the light, revealing the worry etched on his face. "I heard about what happened at the park. I just wanted to see what you're really doing here." Tom found his voice steadier than he felt. "We're trying to create a space where everyone can share their stories and connect. We want to learn from each other." "What's the point?" the man asked, skepticism leaking through his words. "People are angry. They're scared. You think a potluck is going to make a difference?" In that moment, he could feel a wave of collective tension rising again, but he also realized how crucial this was. "It's a start," Tom replied. "Sometimes, all it takes is coming together to talk about our fears, and finding out we're not so different after all." "Yeah, but what if talking just leads to more arguments?" Tom inhaled deeply, anchoring himself. "Then we learn. We grow. We find ways to respect each other's perspectives. This isn't about fixing everything overnight. It's about building relationships, step by step." The man considered this, but anxiety still flicked in his eyes. People are tired of words. They want action. Action starts from understanding, Maria spoke up, her voice calm and steady. "Without knowledge of each other's experiences, how can we make decisions that truly impact our community?" Tom could feel the atmosphere shift ever so slightly as their gazes shifted to Maria, who spoke with a grace that radiated confidence. "We're not just gathering to share food. We're building connections that could lead to real change." Another woman from the back stepped forward, echoing her conviction. "We can't stay silent just because we're scared. What we hope for won't come if we keep avoiding each other. We need to take risks, start conversations." Tom watched as hesitant faces turned thoughtful, and the air began to hum with possibility. He stepped further into the light, feeling the warmth of determination wash over him. "Everyone here has something valuable to share. Our breaking bread together is just the beginning. Let us find common ground before we deal with difficult conversations." As people murmured in agreement, an overwhelming sense of unity began to fill the space. The newcomer started to nod slowly, uncertainty fading beneath the flickering glow of hope. "All right, let's see where this goes," he finally said. "But I'm watching." And just like that, the door to connection opened a crack wider. The days leading to the potluck felt alive with excitement. People from all different backgrounds pledged to help, brimming with enthusiasm and a shared sense of purpose. Every evening, Tom and Maria gathered to discuss details, laughter threading through their shared ambition. They spoke about food, decorations, and ways to ensure everyone felt welcomed. Friends and family joined their efforts, contributing like threads weaving a tapestry of community. On the evening of the potluck, the sun set behind the sprawling maplewood trees, turning the sky a fiery orange. As tables filled with colorful dishes lined the park, excited energy crackled in the air. Small groups began to form, laughter unfurling like a blossoming flower, rooted in nervous hope. People arrived, some with hesitation but many with an eagerness to connect. Tom's heart raced. Would they see value in vulnerability? Would they discover how to stand shoulder to shoulder exactly as Maria envisioned? As the gathering unfolded, stories emerged, each one a unique testament to their journeys. Individuals opened up, revealing layers of fears that had once kept them separated. People laughed, cried, and even embraced. Tom's eyes met Maria south across the park, and he felt a warmth spread through his heart. This was it. This was the magic they had sought. The spark ignited from each shared experience began to weave a rich fabric, reminding him that even in the face of uncertainty, connection could thrive. By the night's end, as warm lanterns glowed above, the crowd congregated for one last discussion. Tom stood before them again, this time filled with a quiet confidence. Thank you all for coming together tonight. It's more than just the food or the stories, it's been proof that connection can happen. It takes courage to step forward, and you all showed that tonight. The applause that followed wasn't just sounds clapping together, it was hope echoing through the community, a collective recognition that they were stronger together. As Maria glanced at Tom, her eyes bright with conviction, he felt a rush of gratitude wash through him. They were transforming, one heart at a time. It wasn't just about making a difference, it was about being the difference. In that moment, beneath flickering lights and laughter, they dared to dream big about what's next. They knew challenges would come, but for the first time, they felt ready together, and as the evening wrapped up and everyone began to disperse, Maria approached Tom with a radiant smile. You did it, she whispered, her voice brimming with warmth. Tom paused, taking her hands in his, feeling his heart swell with pride. No, we did it. They both knew this was just the beginning. The spark ignited that night would set forth a wave of change. Each participant was now part of a story committed to redefining their community. Hope blossomed from connections nurtured under shared vulnerabilities. And from that moment on, they would carry that light forward, determined to shine through both the darkness and the dawn. Make a difference today, stand together tomorrow. So, if you felt that spark, if you believe in the power of connection, you need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support for stories that can change the world. Leave a like now, let us feed the algorithm and spread these messages. Comment below your reactions and feelings about this ending, we want to hear your voice. And please, share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Don't wait not even one more second to be part of something bigger.